What do you fall back on when things start to unravel, as they inevitably do, right? You're going to have dark patches. How do you work your way through those dark patches?
Okay. There are a few things. First of all, I make peace with the fact that I am going to have those.
Macmac 200 miler, it's one of the toughest trail races in Africa. 200 miles, 15,000 meters of vertical gain, and a test of physical and mental resilience like no other. I'm Fred Richardson, head coach at Mindful Runner, and in this series we go inside the minds of those who take it on, from the first timers to the race winners and everyone in between. Today we're going to be interviewing Gideon Kahl and getting his perspective, finding out who he is, what his history is, and what he hopes to get from this monster race that he's taking on. Gideon, welcome. Thanks for joining us. What's your running history? Where do you come from as a runner?
I wasn't much of a sportsman in school. I only discovered sports around 30 years of age. So I was mostly into mountain biking, and I think it was about 11, 12 years ago when I decided now I want to run. And then I read every single book I could about the topic. I'm one of those people. Read Born to Run, made my own sandals to run in, bought 5-finger shoes. But eventually I decided now I want to do the Comrades. So 2015, my wife and I did the Comrades, and then I had to do the back-to-back. I didn't do much trail running, and it wasn't very structured running. I didn't belong to a club really. A few years ago, I saw this Addo race. I decided now I want to try trail running. Entered a 76-kilometer race. First time I ever run a trail. And I did it in road shoes. But it was a good experience. Yeah, and then the trail running bit me because the 76-kilometer went right into the night. And it was just such a nice experience being alone in the forest at night. And that got me going back.
So in terms of distance, what's the longest run you've taken on so far?
So it was in Macmac last year. I only got to about 200 kilometers and they pulled me off because I was missing cutoffs. Before that, it was the Addo 100-miler. So 100 miles is the longest distance I've completed.
So you've got the 100-miler buckle, but 200 kilometers of Macmac is a heck of a long way still. I know how far that is. So at least that experience will stand you in good stead. What lessons have you taken from that 200 last year, and what's changed in your training this year? If you were missing cutoffs then, why were you missing them? Have you changed your training in any way?
I think my training was fine. When they took me off, I still felt like I had 100 kilometers on my legs. So I didn't feel like my body wasn't up to it. But because it's such a long race and it was the first time I was doing it, it was very hard for me to figure out how I should pace myself. So I decided to be very conservative in the beginning and rather hold back a bit. Eventually found out my body doesn't hurt as bad as I thought it would, but then I didn't have much of a buffer to work with. I also had problems with my watch. I was running with a road watch. It had GPX on it, but obviously not at the range, so it was very hard to navigate. It packed up within the first 40 kilometers of the race. Trying to navigate by phone didn't work well. I had the phone as a backup because the rain was interfering with the touchscreen. So, and also I tend to spend too much time at aid stations. So those three things cost me a lot. So my plan is more to push a bit harder in the first half of the race this year and just build up a bit of a buffer for when things go wrong, that I have a bit of time to correct it.
And your watch, you've upgraded that?
Yes, no, I got a proper watch now.
Yeah.
No, I tried to watch now at the Comrades 2 weeks ago, and with all the features and navigation on, it only used 20% for that whole day. So it's a decent watch.
So you ran Comrades this year. How did that go?
It went well, yes. I didn't go to run any good time. I make myself available to run with people. The last 3 years I've been running with novices to see them through it because I love seeing people achieve something big like that and their eyes open to what they really can achieve. Yeah, that's why I do the Comrades. But it's also a very good, nice long run before the Macmac.
What draws you to this 200-miler challenge? What is it that got you signed up and now coming back for the second time?
I battle to run unless I have a goal. And the year before last, I wasn't running, and a friend of mine told me, next week when I see you, you better have signed up for a race. So I made sure I would find a race before the next week, and then I saw the Mac 200, and I thought, no, this is a good one. I'll enter that. It was a nice big goal. And what I enjoy a lot about these races, there's a lot of research going into it. It's also connecting with people to find out how to accomplish the goal of finishing something like that. And also the solitude. I love the long distance trail races in South Africa because there are very few participants. I know it's maybe not so great for the organizers because they don't make that much money out of them, but I really enjoy being by myself in nature and just enjoy what's around me.
And that's certainly something that happens during the 200 at Mac, right? We start with maybe 15 or 20 other runners, and you hardly see each other than those sort of Mount Sheba interchanges. And then the 100 milers get on the course, and it starts to get busy, and then the 50 milers as well, and it's hectic out there by then, right? That's how you feel because you've kind of been there for 2 days already going on.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's the biggest mental adjustment you've got to make moving up from that 100-mile distance now into 200s? I mean, you stand at the start line of a 100-mile. Do you feel differently when you stand at the start of a 200-miler?
I feel obviously there are different races, but for me, the excitement of both are the same. Obviously, I want to achieve something bigger. I love pushing my body to see what I'm capable of. And last year, the 200-miler beat me, but I wouldn't sign up for it if I didn't believe it was possible to actually achieve the goal. So for me, it's nice just to see what my body is capable of doing. Whether it's start of a 100-miler or start of a 200-miler, that is in my mind.
What's your overall strategy in terms of how you're going to sleep, how you're going to eat? You don't have to give away any secrets, but what's your basic idea of how you're going to approach the race from a logistical point of view?
Sleep-wise, last year I couldn't figure out how to plan for sleep because the 100-miler I just ran without sleep. I didn't know where it would fit in. I got to 50 kilometers to the Mac Hut last year, and I was so nauseous. I tried everything. I tried running slow, making sure I'm not overheating, making sure my nutrition was right, I'm not dehydrated. In the end, I slept for 11 minutes and nausea was gone. And it was to me very strange because that was about 8-9 hours, no, a little bit more hours into the race, while with the previous year doing 160, I didn't sleep at all, and I felt much better than that. So the sleep is a little bit of an unpredictable thing for me. My strategy is to push the first 100 miles just a little bit harder. I'm not going to race it. Then get a decent 2 or 3 hours sleep in before I make the way back. Last year I slept in total 68 minutes and it was spread over 4 sessions. So it was really just power naps.
Sleep is obviously one of those really interesting things around this kind of distance because nobody's got the answer yet. So it's always interesting to see what other people are doing.
Food-wise, my food and the nutrition and the hydration worked very well last year. I tend to like real food, and I will put it in quotes. I can't do gels or energy bars. They don't sit well with me. So I prefer to do things like druives and dried fruit and maybe like Rice Krispie type bars, pretzels. It's a variety so that if you get that palate fatigue that you can switch foods a bit and still get your about 200 calories per hour in.
And that's your target. You're going to be going for 200 calories an hour and trying to maintain that.
I also split my hydration from my nutrition because if it's very hot and I were to drink a lot and I have my carbs also in my drink, then it's very easy to consume so much carbs to start getting stomach problems. So I prefer to have the electrolytes and the water separate from the food.
From a gear point of view, equipment, are you comfortable with your gear? I mean, are you one of those guys who's going to be packing in everything? I mean, if you see somebody like Maurice van Rensburg, for instance, Maurice's pack looks huge. He puts everything in, and then you'll see other guys will pack almost nothing into their packs. What do you? Do you go as much gear as possible or as light as possible?
Yeah, no, I go a little bit overboard. I also tend to pack everything that I possibly can. I try to plan for every eventuality. And obviously, like I saw last year, the weather can change so quickly that I don't want to be caught off guard with anything. So I pack quite a lot.
In terms of mindset, because obviously mindset is a massive thing at this kind of distance. What do you fall back on when things start to unravel, as they inevitably do, right? You're going to have dark patches. How do you work your way through those dark patches?
There are a few things. First of all, I make peace with the fact that I am going to have those. So it's not something I can avoid. I have some strategies for quitting for when that thought comes, because that's also going to come. And one of them is, for instance, that I cannot quit at the aid station I'm at. I can only quit at the next one. So if I feel like quitting, then I have to at least go to the next one. And normally you find that things change a little bit in that distance and you don't feel like quitting anymore. What I also would do is I would verbalize it to someone. If there is someone with me, I would tell them, I feel like quitting, talk me out of it. So my plan is to stay in the game as much as possible. My wife is a very kind and a very supportive person, but she doesn't like seeing me suffering. And I actually had to tell her, if you see me, it doesn't matter how bad I look, you cannot tell me that I might quit. You can only keep me in the race. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. One of the things that I always advise seconds and seconding teams, when you see a runner, it doesn't matter what they look like, you smile, you love them, you tell them they look fantastic, they're really looking good, they're coping well, they're doing amazingly, and you push them out the door and keep them moving. You don't want to see that look in your support team's eyes that says, man, you're broken, because you know you are. You don't need confirmation.
Why do you do this to yourself?
Yeah. I get the impression you're quite active in your road running club as well. How does that community assist you in training? You've already told me you help out novice runners as well. Do you find that community is an important part of your running?
Yes, I do. I must confess that I actually don't run with the club as often as I need to. I like doing long distances and I do like running by myself, but every time I run with them, I push myself much harder than I would by myself. So I definitely need that community to improve my own running. When I go on a long run, then I prefer the quiet. I rather listen to books or music while I'm running. But the club is to me important. I remember many years ago, Barry Stander used to be a mountain bike rider, and he died quite young. I think it was about 12 years ago he died. But the one thing that impressed me was a world-class mountain biker, and he would go on weekends and cycle with beginners. And I thought that's very important that you don't forget your roots. You mustn't forget where you started at. I also started at a place where I couldn't run 5 kilometers. And that's why it's for me important running Comrades with novices, that they can just also experience that growth and the possibility and achieve their full potential. Yeah, running with the club, that's for me. Beginning of the season, I run with club a lot. When we get closer to things like Mac, I tend to do a lot of long distance, and then I find I run more by myself than other people with the.
Talking about the community, are you going to have a crew at MacMac? You've spoken about your wife. Is she going to be supporting you?
Yeah, she will be there.
Cool. And that relationship, is she super soft on you, or does she kick you out and go, no, you've got 5 minutes?
No, she's been getting good. I've told her. So
Okay.
I run to work quite frequently, and sometimes I just don't feel like it. So some mornings when I'm up at 20 minutes past 4 and she wakes up, her words to me will be, good job, not good morning. She wants me out running. Yeah. And I've also, because I told her before, you must only keep me in a race. She normally hides little messages all over in my kit. So when I dig for an energy bar, I will find a message. But the messages are also getting to the point where it is keeping me in the race. Just another
That's
funny thing about the support. She told me she booked herself in at Mount Sheba at the hotel there, but only herself. And she told me, you better finish this race or else we're gonna pay for two people's accommodation. She wants me to finish to keep that cost down.
that's great. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. You know the dot watchers are there, right? You've experienced them. Do you get a sense that you've got much more of an impact on your community than you initially think?
Yes, I do think so. When I did get back off the run last year at the club, so many people came and said, oh, this is such an inspiration, or they were watching the dot all the time. And it's many people I didn't know. So there's definitely a lot of people that do follow the event.
From a mindset point of view, do you go out with like personal mantras? Do you have some sort of like words that you use out there? I mean, I know sometimes I'll just count, like, getting up, walking up a hill, I'm just counting my footsteps. Or there'll be a song that plays through my head again and again, and it plays for the entire length of the race, and it's the same song. Anything like that?
Yeah, it sometimes happens to me that the song just gets stuck in my head and it just keeps me going. I also tend to talk to myself like in a third person, where I will just tell myself when I feel like stopping or going slow, tell myself, listen, Gideon, this is not the time to go slow now. You actually have more on your legs. There's no reason for you to take a rest now. Instead of trying to push too hard, rather go a bit slower, but you're not going to stop now. So I tend to talk to myself like that. Yeah, and then as I said, I've got a little notes from my wife that normally encourages me. So I will read those when I feel I need to get myself moving.
And advice to anybody else who's thinking about doing a 200 miler, what kind of advice would you give them?
First of all, it is a big journey and a lot of discovery, and it is very satisfying. Even though I didn't finish last year, it was to me such a big thing that I couldn't imagine not coming back and doing it again. I would advise them to have a very good watch. Also to connect with people that have done it before. So when I initially signed up for the MacMac, I didn't know anybody that has done such a long distance. And then once I got onto the WhatsApp group and started asking questions, a lot of people came out of the woodwork. I also think another piece of good advice is to do backyard ultras. I've done the one in Potch also where Damien was. And the nice thing about backyard ultras, first of all, you have to keep yourself in the race because you have an opportunity every hour to quit. So it's very hard to stay in the race, and I think it's very good mind training. But at the same time, it's also very good nutrition training because you can try many things. If it doesn't work, then next hour you can change it out. It's not like other race where you're stuck with what you have. And the logistics are quite simple on those races. So I would advise people to try backyard ultras also.
It is a good testing ground, as you say. How does your training vary? Are you doing track work? Are you doing hill work? You've mentioned the long runs, obviously those are important, but are you mixing up your training? Do you do strength work?
To strength work, so I did do quite a bit of gym initially. I've done quite a bit less recently because the running was taking up so much time, but I still try to get to the gym occasionally. I do believe in strength work. I try to simulate some of the conditions, especially with that first 50 kilometers in Macmac, all that climbing you get. I found the copy here in Johannesburg, here at Kalulis, and there's a route that we call Everest, and it's a very steep route. So I would just go up and down and up and down and up and down that thing to do 1,000 meters or 2,000 meters of climbing just to get my head around what that elevation feels like. So that's one thing that I would train. It's just trying to simulate it. Then for the rest, I am not really a weekend warrior. I don't like this idea of having a weekend widow. So I try to fit my running in a week. So that's why I started running to work. My work is 20 kilometers away from home. So then I run the 20, I do my day's work, run the 20 back, and I have a marathon for the day.
Yeah. That's lower mileage. So how many Ks are you doing a week in your peak running periods?
I'm not doing very, very high mileage, so it's around between 80 and 100 kilometers a week. I do have the occasional very long run, like in April I did a backyard ultra. In February with my son, we did a 12-hour run, and then the Comrades now also recently. So it's just regular longish distances, and then every 6 to 8 weeks a really nice long distance just to see where I'm at.
You're feeling like you've prepared well for the race.
Yes, I do.
That's always hard. Just on that start line, you can never be certain of what's going to happen ahead of you, but getting there confident in your ability and confident in your training, that's got to be first prize. And then obviously no injuries, no niggles. You don't have any of those.
Yeah, it's also, for me, it's also just solving problems. I enjoyed that about mountain biking, but also with the trail running, if you run into problems, you need to be able to troubleshoot and solve problems. So that's probably why I run with so much equipment also.
Yeah. Do you solve the problem on the fly, or do you sit down like now and in your planning, plan for, okay, if this happens, I'm going to do that. And if that happens, I'll do that. Or do you just deal with those issues as they turn up?
No, so I do plan for a lot of it before the time, and that obviously draws from my experience of previous races. So lessons I've learned, I've implemented that in my planning. Like foot care to me is very important. It wasn't my first 100 miler, and it's only by accident that I learned about proper foot care in that race, and it absolutely saved my race. And the lady that helped me also was just very passionate about that. So while she was treating my feet, she was telling me exactly what she's doing, why she's doing it. I saw what she's using, and I've also read up a little bit about it. So I've put little foot care kits together that I can deal with most things. But fortunately, I haven't had real foot issues up until now. So I hope it continues that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the road running does do a lot towards conditioning your feet. It's the hardest surface you can run on. It's the best place to condition your feet. You mentioned earlier that you'll often listen to stuff in your headphones. What kind of things are you listening to? Podcasts, music?
I often listen to, initially it was mostly music, but I love listening to books. So I used to love self-help books, but recently I've also been working my way through the Bible. I've gotten, I think in the last few weeks, I've gotten almost halfway through the Bible just by running to work and back. So I enjoy it for that.
Okay, nice. And are you planning on using headphones during it's got to be bone conduction, but are you
Yeah.
planning on using that kind of thing during your run?
I was thinking of it, so I'm definitely going to pack it in as a possible tool, but I'm planning not to use it. It is if the situation demands it, I will use it. But I prefer the quiet and I prefer my own thoughts. So also I want to immerse myself in the whole experience everything around me and not be stuck in my head. I'm stuck in my head most of the time, so that's my ability to get out of it a little bit.
Thanks so much. It's been fun getting to know you. I'm looking forward to hitting that start line with you. That's going to be
Yes.
another fantastic adventure.
Thank you. Yeah, and all the best to you too.
This has been a part of our MacMac interview series. For more stories, training strategies, and resources to prepare for your own ultra trail journey, head to mindfulrunner.co.za.